What's the name?
Laura Carlson Heidemann for Blazing Wings Inc., Buffalo Wild Wings.
Okay. Doesn't look like you registered, but if you go to the city's website and look up today's meeting schedule, you should be able to actually register, because we'll need you to register if someone does have questions for you.
I thought I was just supposed to put my number in when I called in.
Well, we still need you to register using the city's online registration system as well.
This is so confusing. Okay. How do I find that?
If you go to cityofmadison.com.
I sent you. I had sent you an email on Thursday, I think, and I just sent you another email just right now. It's got a link to this meeting, and then you just register for public comment.
Thanks, Jim.
I didn't have to do this last time, so I'm so confused. Register for this. Okay, so do I just put, I don't want to speak though.
You can register in support now wishing to speak, or you can register in support now wishing to speak but available to answer questions.
Okay.
You have this conversation offline, Jim.
No.
Like
I don't know
calling her directly and
I
walking
can.
her through it.
We'll have to start the meeting in 10 minutes, and so I don't know if I'll make myself available for email questions if she has them.
All right, thank you.
Do we have quorum with Mr. Fletcher?
We do. Stefan, are you here?
I am indeed, Mike.
Excellent. Okay. Then let's get rolling. Joe, can you kick it off?
Yes, welcome to our virtual meeting. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. Members, if you're able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you're able, please activate your video when you are speaking. All panelists have the ability to mute and unmute themselves. Please continue to use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak, ask questions, or request a roll call vote. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak. The name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. City staff will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the ALRC, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. This meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order. All speakers wishing to address the committee regarding an agenda item must first complete a registration form and submit it to the city clerk designee. Speakers may speak to the committee only after they are called by the chair. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. The public is not allowed to address or respond to speakers or committee members unless they've been recognized by the chair of the committee. Mr. Verbeck, are there any notified absences?
Just Alderman Yazzie indicating he would arrive around 6 o'clock today.
Thank you. Will you please call the roll?
Certainly. Alder Revere?
Here.
Dr. Reese?
Here.
Mr. Donnelly?
Present.
Alder Carter?
Present.
Mr. Fletcher?
Here.
Chair, we have quorum.
I call this meeting of the ALRC to order at 5:38 p.m. First order of business is approval of the minutes from our meeting on September 29th. Committee, what's your pleasure?
Move approval.
Motion to approve from Alder Carter. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Fletcher. Any discussion or corrections? Any dissent? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, approval of minutes from our meeting on October 5th. What's your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher seconds.
Move approval.
Your motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alder Carter. Any discussion? Any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Mr. Verbeek, is there anyone registered for general public comment?
Let me just refresh this to make sure there's not, what didn't see any before. Nobody's registered for general public comment.
All right. Disclosures and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any such disclosures or recusals? All right, hearing none. Presentation of the consent agenda. At this time, a consent agenda will be moved with the recommended action or to grant with any recommended conditions if no action is recommended for each item except items which have registrants opposed and wishing to speak, items which members of the committee have separated out for discussion or debate purposes, items recommending ordinance changes or operator's license applications. Mr. Verbeek, which items are on the consent agenda?
Excuse me. Recommend the council to grant items, change of agent, items 3, 4, 5, and 6. Entity reorganization for items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Street year extension of licensed premise for item number 14. And a recommendation to council to place on file without prejudice, public hearing new license, item 17, and a 21 plus entertainment license number 18.
Are there any items that members would like to see separated?
And just FYI, 17, 18, the applicant is withdrawing those applications. That's why it's on file without prejudice.
Thank you. Any items for separation? A motion in favor of the consent agenda as proposed would be in order. Mr. Fletcher, is there a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. We will take the recommended action on all items on the consent agenda. Mr. Verbeek will in a moment read out which items have been dealt with and the resolution. If the only business you are here for is on the list that he reads out right now, you don't have to stick around. Jim?
Was the original motion from Alder Carter?
No, it was Mr. Fletcher, and second from Dr. Reese.
Dr. Reese, okay. All right, so the approved consent agenda for ALRC meeting October 20th, 2021. Recommended council to grant item number 3, change of agent, Walgreens Co. Number 4, change of agent, Liberty Station Tavern, Madison, LLC. Number 5, change of agent, Red Robin International, Inc. Number 6, change of agent, Flicks Brewhouse, Wisconsin, LLC. Number 7, entity reorganization, Blazing Wings, Inc. at 240 East Town Mall. Number 8, entity reorganization, Blazing Wings, Inc. at 789 University Avenue. Number 9, entity reorganization, Kelly Williamson Company at 2601 Shopco Drive. Number 10, entity reorganization, Kelly Williamson Company at 901 South Gammon Road. Number 11, entity reorganization, Kelly Williamson Company at 33 Junction Court. Number 12, entity reorganization, Kelly Williamson Company at 8230 Watts Road. Number 14, street year extension of licensed premise, Hone LLC. And recommend the council to place on file without prejudice. Item 17, public hearing new license, Hayes Place LLC, DBA Hayes Place at 1709 Aberg Avenue, Class B combination liquor and beer. And number 18, 21 plus entertainment license, Hayes Place LLC, DBA Hayes Place at 1709 Aberg Avenue.
So thank you very much. So once again, all of the items just read out have been disposed of and will not be discussed further at this meeting. Next up, item 2, operator's license application for Catherine Hernandez. Is Catherine here?
I am not seeing a registration for Catherine.
Is this the first time this applicant has come before us,
It is the first time.
or has been on our agenda? Committee, what's your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher?
Move referral, Mr. Chair.
Your motion to refer to the next regularly scheduled ILRC meeting. Is there a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Item 2 is referred to next month. Next up, item 13, change of license conditions for Garver events at 3241 Garver Green. Mr. Burbick, is there anyone here for this item?
Yes, I believe.
Yeah, Daniel Smith is
Smith.
here. Yep. I had to promote him to a panelist because of the device he's using. So,
All right.
Hello.
Hello, Daniel. Can you please tell us about what you're proposing?
Yeah, so on my application, I had 2 proposals. It looked like only one carried over to the agenda today, so I was hoping to be able to get both of them on there. But one, maybe you guys have heard, but there is a shortage in the country right now of wedding venues available to the boom of lovers who want to get married that fell in love over COVID. So we've seen a huge rise of requests for Sunday weddings. And so our limitation on that is with our liquor license ending at 11 p.m. on Sundays. A lot of people are kind of turned off by that. So we're hoping to be able to extend our hours on Sunday for our liquor license until midnight, to be more attractive to that crowd of people that are looking for, specifically holiday weekends, where people have Mondays off and are able to have weddings.
And what was the second item that you had applied for but that didn't appear on the agenda?
Yeah, so on the application, we had requested to extend New Year's Eve until 12:30 p.m. because right now our license would end at midnight, and we have booked and have the potential to have the Madison Fire Department charity ball on New Year's Eve. So that's happening this year, and we have the option to hopefully renew that for the next 3 years. But it would be, in my book, a shame to have to kick them out at midnight and do last call at 11:30 and go say Happy New Year somewhere else. So we were hoping to have that changed as well.
So I have a question for Assistant City Attorney Brist, the counsel for ALRC. Steve,
yes.
Where does this sit with open meetings law and public notice? The extension on New Year's Eve is substantially similar to extension on Sundays. Would it be legit for us to make a decision about this, or would we have to put it off to a subsequent meeting?
My first reaction is I don't know what Jennifer Zolby thinks, but I think it has to do with the closing hours, and that's the subject that is before the body. I would say that yes, you consider adding this to the motion. Changing conditions. Maybe Jennifer has a different answer here. I see her raising her hand.
Assistant City Attorney Zelovy.
I don't have a different answer, but I'm assuming that the condition was the result of a voluntary agreement because the statute allows for everybody to stay open all night on New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve, yes.
So just consider that as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Alder Carter.
Thank you. I was just going to say on his application, he does have midnight on Sunday and 12:30 on New Year's Eve and day. So Daniel, are you saying that you had 2 applications? Because I see this written on one.
It's written on one. So, I mean, it's a gray area. New Year's Eve midnight 01 becomes New Year's Day. So I just wanted to make that clarification there. We won't be open on New Year's Day.
I think we're in the clear to
Okay.
make a ruling on this tonight. So thank you to our attorneys. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Alder Carter?
Yeah, I just have a clarification, and maybe you've already said this. You want to be open till midnight on Sundays from this point forward, correct?
Correct.
And then the second item that you want, which is on your application, is the New Year's Eve one. So two different things.
Correct.
And I think Attorney Zillavi has made it clear about the New Year's Eve. And is that clear to you?
Yeah, that it's a blanket for the whole city
Okay.
There's no restrictions on that. Yes.
Okay, thank
you.
Dr. Reese.
Daniel, I don't know if you know this, but is there a reason why you had the New Year's Eve restriction?
I'm sorry, what?
Is there a reason? Do you know the reason why you had the New Year's Eve restriction explicitly called out?
There wasn't a New Year's Eve restriction. I just wanted to address that to make sure that.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't aware of the blanket city policy to be able to stay open later. So that's
Gotcha.
good news.
Yep.
All right, what other questions we'll have for the applicant? Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants for this item?
There are not.
Committee, what is your pleasure? Alder Carter. Alder Carter, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to know, Daniel, did you have a conversation with Alder Benford?
I have not had a conversation with Brian. No.
Okay. I move approval. I think that, well, we all know about Garver. It's the place to be, even when it's not the place to be, right? So I move approval.
Your motion to approve the change of license conditions for item 13. Is there a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Any discussion? Any dissent? Seeing none, motion carries. Congratulations, Daniel.
Thank you, guys. Have a lovely night.
You too. Next item 15. Public hearing new license for Tokyo Sushi at 1133 Williamson Street. Do we have a translator for this item?
We do. Holly Chen is here.
Hello, Holly. Tim, will you please swear Holly in?
Holly, raise your right hand. Will you repeat after me? I affirm I will accurately interpret English to Mandarin, Mandarin to English.
Hi.
That's
how
I will interpret what Sarah was. I usually just say yes.
I'm sorry. Yes. Do you affirm you will accurately interpret English to Mandarin and Mandarin to English?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Excellent. And I know we've had it be a couple of different ways. How is this going to work with the Zoom meeting?
The easiest way is to, during Q&A, turn off the interpretation feature. So, and then once you get into discussion, then we can turn the interpretation feature back on.
Excellent. Sounds good. Okay. I believe we have a registrant here, Sun Cheng.
Sun Cheng, 你在吗?
Oh.
Are you here with us, Sun Cheng?
Yes.
Okay. So committee, this item has been before us before. For anyone who doesn't remember, we almost made it through it in our meeting before the last council meeting. And the only outstanding item was a neighborhood meeting. I will leave it to your discretion what questions you would like to ask this applicant, but I don't think we need to go through the general spiel again.
就是这一项，我不知道大家记不记得，就是上次差一点就通过了，就是这上次会议是在委员会开会之前，因为缺少了一个就公众会议，所以没有通过那么接下来就是看看委员会有没有什么问题要问。
Alder Carter.
Yes. Sunshine, did you put the sign in your window with a date stating when the informational would happen?
Sunshine, 你有没有把就那个通告贴在窗户上面，就是有填写一个日期，就是说哪一天有就是那公众会议，就提供公众那个信息的会议，有没有安排时间去做？
有了，我们已经经过上次，我们已经把时间写上去了。
Yes, after last time we filled in a time for that.
What was the date and time?
那填写的日期时间是什么？
日期时间是10月8号，星期五的下午3点，因为我们中午有休息1个半小时，所以说。
The date was on October 8th, that is a Friday at 3 p.m. because we usually have about an hour and a half of break after lunch.
Okay, thank you.
好，谢谢。
All right, thank you, Alder Carter. Committee, what additional questions do you have for the applicant?
有没有什么其他问题要问的？
Any additional questions for the applicant?
有没有其他问题要问申请者的？
Okay. Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants for this item?
有没有？
There are not.
没有其他人注册要为这一项发言。
Committee, what is your pleasure?
那委员会委
There's
员
no other questions. I'll go ahead and turn the interpretation feature back on.
Excellent. Okay, so committee, a motion would be in order. What is your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to grant item 15, new license for Tokyo Sushi from Mr. Fletcher, second from Alder Carter. Any discussion?
Was this the item taken up on the special meeting? Okay, I'll abstain from this. Oh, can we do that? Will that wreck because we just have quorum?
You can do that.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so we've got one abstention. Any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Congratulations, Sunshine. Next up, item 16, public hearing new license for Hook and Fade at 113 South Hamilton Street. Do we have anyone here for this item, Mr. Verbeek?
We do. Hosung Shin is here.
Excellent. Hosung?
Hello.
Hello. Can you please tell us about your proposed business?
Yes. Well, I've lived in Madison for about 6 years. I felt like Madison lacked a upscale and very comfortable communal lounge space that can leverage healthy activity. And I landed on a virtual golf studio. I'm ethnically Korean, and in my home country, this virtual golf studio is all the rage. I mean, it's been for about 20 years, and as stated in the recent Cap Times article about my business, there are more of these businesses at Starbucks by the ratio of 5-1. So, we're beginning to see that trend happening in the United States. But in my market research, there's less than 300 of these businesses here in the U.S., whereas there's 10,000 of these in South Korea, a country that's about 1/6 the population. So when I looked at Madison, when I looked at this business, I said, wow, we can do this really, we can do this right, and in a way that is, accepting of everyone, not really catering to avid golfers, but to non-golfers and people who just want to, engage in comfortable social communal activity. So that's kind of the genesis of the idea. We've had the fortune of having a lot of people in the community back this business, whether it's ULI's Brad Binkowski, or whether it's our alderman, or whether it's Boys and Girls Club. So I really look at this business as it certainly is a for-profit business, but I'm looking to really leverage our commitment to downtown Madison, and then also apply that to other nonprofit activities as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that comprehensive description. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Hosung, just just out of curiosity, what is the difference between kind of virtual golf and some of the kind of golf simulator style establishments that this committee is familiar with those over the course of the past 6 months or so?
Yes, sir. Well, I think if you just take a look at it at a glance, you won't be able to tell the difference. One of the things about this, the reason why I was very insistent upon getting this particular, I guess you can still call it a golf simulator, is it does more than just put a video game like up on the screen and you swing away. This particular model of, let's say, golf simulators was imported from Korea. It took us quite a bit of time, and widely considered the best in the world. The reason for that is it has the ability to move the swing plate, which is basically where the ball is placed, to kind of simulate how the ball lands at different part of the course. Other simulators don't have that. So you're not really, putting the players into immersive environment. In addition, this virtual simulator allows the ball to be retrieved automatically and also place the ball automatically, which really mimics how the players are playing in real life golf. You don't just go to the next shot and bend down, pick up the ball, bring it back, put it on the tee. So really, there are elements of this system that I saw very closer to more of a virtual reality, virtual golfing experience. Now, having said that, I don't think it's quite there yet, and that's the technology part of this business that I want to explore. And really, this is a prototype business that I think is going to be used to help us learn a lot about this particular business. I believe we're in the very beginning of this tremendous upcycle worldwide. So if we can create a business that can really study the issue, and my ambition is to build a factory to produce these machines and these type of virtual environments right here in Wisconsin, so that we can export that out to other states as well as other countries. But in order for us to do that, we really have to understand how the customers, how our patrons experience the platform. So it's a little different than, I would say your typical bar or lounge proprietors coming and doing this. I have a much bigger, longer term vision of how this will work out.
Hosung, just one kind of additional brief follow-up. So are there other establishments like this in the state of Wisconsin, or is this unique in your mind? And
as far as I know, no public venue has this particular model from this particular company, which is, from my understanding, the biggest company in the space. The Golf Zone, we have a very close relationship. They're a Korean company, but they have a Golf Zone America that basically markets the machine in US. They have been somewhat unsuccessful because I think their approach to the marketplace has been misguided. But I believe that that's because they've been taking the Korean approach, and the American market is very different. And I believe the way that I'm setting this up will be an eye-opening thing for the company. I expect to see huge acceleration in having these simulators be more of a normal thing across the country.
And Hosung, just sorry, last question. So, but in the other types of what you would classify as peer venues across the country, you would not be unique in terms of the service of alcohol, correct?
Oh, please repeat the question.
So you mentioned that while you may be unique in Wisconsin, there are other what you would consider peers in the United States, potentially. You would not be unique in terms of the sale of alcohol at this, what you would consider a peer venue, correct?
Yeah, the idea of alcohol, to be completely honest, in the beginning was not something that I wanted to do. The reason for that is I really wanted to understand the marketplace without, having alcohol as a variable that will kind of cloud the real understanding of the marketplace. Having said that, though, again, it goes back to being able to last long enough as a business in case there isn't enough demand just for this kind of machines. Because again, one of these machines costs $100,000. So we have 5 of them in the space. So I'm making a tremendous amount of investment in here with the idea that there is a market for it. The reality is, I don't know. I can't say, just having a space with very expensive machines and expecting people to just come to just engage in that, it's going to be profitable. With that discussion with my team, I think, we said, okay, we're going to do this kind of a marquee prototype space in the middle of downtown. It does need to have the ability to serve alcohol, especially where it's located. Now, having said that, going forward, do I foresee every single Hook and Fade location having the ability to serve alcohol? I want to say it's not always going to be the case that we're going to have alcohol at Hook and Fade studios. In fact, in my personal opinion, I prefer not to, but that will be depending on what we learn. This first location is a huge indicator of the kind of demand we'll see rest of the country.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Alder Carter, then Alder Revere.
Thank you. My question is that you did touch on it a little bit. You have an extensive alcohol menu, and yet your snack menu is very light. Can you explain that?
Yes. So one of the things that actually I think wasn't quite correctly answered on my initial application was that the proportion of alcohol to food, and the other was kept blank. The reality of the matter is this is a golf studio business. Alcohol and food is secondary and tertiary source of revenue. So now that I've been apprised of how what that question was asking, the question number 25, section E, majority of the revenue, or I would say vast majority of the revenue, is going to come from the studio rental. as I stated earlier, these machines are incredibly expensive. And I believe there's a demand for trying something so futuristic. To that end, we're looking to charge something like $70 an hour to utilize these machines. In addition, we're looking for individual and corporate organizational memberships, which will go in from anywhere between $150 a month all the way to something like $5,000 a month for larger organizations. So from our perspective, once you factor that in, we're looking at 55 to 60% of the revenue, of the business revenue coming from these sim rentals and memberships, and alcohol only comprising of 30 to 40% of the revenue. And then the food revenue and merchandising revenue would, make up of the rest of it. So, in terms of food, the reason why we didn't or couldn't do food is the fact that our primary motivation, primary goal of this business is to place these machines. And these machines take about 500 to 600 square feet each. So if you're putting in 5 like we're doing, and the space is less than 4,500 square foot, there's not much left to do anything else, including doing a kitchen. Would I have loved to put a kitchen in there? Absolutely. But given the space constraints and given our desire to place these simulators at the forefront, only type of food that we were able to do was bar snacks, pizza oven and frozen pizzas and of that kind of thing. So hopefully that answers your question.
I'll have to accept it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Alder Verveer.
Thank you, Chairperson Donnelly. Hi, Hosung. I just wanted to, Alderperson Carter, by the way, obviously asked and you answered the question relating to the very minor deficiency you and I previously discussed in your application. But I wanted to specifically ask our staff, Deputy City Clerk Verbeek, if he could please amend your application on the record here as it relates to that question number 25. And also, Jim, if you could update the figures in Legistar as well for this item when it goes to the Common Council. So with that said, Hosung, could you please one more time just give us those percentages that now that you realize that others should include the virtual golf fees and memberships as you stated. Could you give us those percentages one more time for question 25, please?
Yes. So the other would be 60%, because that would include both probably 55% is the pure attributed towards the golf sim time rental, whether it comes in the form of pay as you go or the membership. But I expect to sell some merchandising as well as a private locker rental revenue as well. So that all adds up to 60%. Alcohol then would make up about 35%, and the food would make up 5%.
Very good. Thank you for that, and thank you in advance, Jim, for modifying the application and the notation in Legistar. I'll just close by saying welcome to downtown. As you know, I'm excited for your business to open downtown. I'm thrilled that you decided to invest in downtown, and I'm also pleased to have this long vacant commercial retail space filled finally since the Pressman building was open, quite a while ago now before the pandemic. It's nice to see that space finally occupied by a good business. So welcome and congratulations in advance. Good luck.
All right, committee members, any additional questions for the applicant? Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants on this item?
Didn't see any before. I'm just going to refresh real quick to make sure nobody registered while this is going on. I do not see any additional registrations for this.
Alder Verveer, was I correct to understand this is a new physical space that hasn't been occupied yet?
That's correct. It's the first floor of Urban Land Interests. multifamily building that mostly occupies a former Anchor Bank parking garage on the outer ring at Doty, Carroll, and South Hamilton Street. So this retail space is at South Hamilton Street, directly across the street from one of the entrances and exits to the Tornado Club.
I was thinking it was across from the Tornado. I was completely baffled by the address. So.
Yes, it's definitely the first time it's been a licensed establishment or any establishment in the first floor retail space there.
Okay, if there are no additional registrants, committee, what is your pleasure?
I move to grant, Chairperson.
There a motion to grant from Alder Revere, second from Mr. Fletcher. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries on item 16, new license for Hook and Fade. Congratulations, Hosung, and best of luck with your business.
Thank you, committee. I'm really happy to invest in downtown Madison, and I wish to provide something that we'll all enjoy. So come on over when we open. Thank you.
Have a good night. Next up, item 19, summary of recent calls for service. Captain Sanders. Is there anything to which you would like to call the committee's attention?
Chairperson, could I rudely interject? Could we please consider the late item added to the agenda because the applicant is waiting and has a private event at his restaurant that he's missing to be here?
By all means. So jumping ahead to item 21.
Thank you.
21 plus entertainment license for 107 State at 107 State. And we've got Nathan here for this item. Nathan, can you tell us about your proposal, please?
Yes, I've applied for the entertainment license, and basically this would allow me to have an occasional drag show, and also along with private events, have DJs for weddings, for the private events. In essence, that's really about it. I'm generally a restaurant that closes somewhere between, on Friday and Saturday nights, we close between 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Seldom do we ever stay open past 1 o'clock. I don't believe a lot of good things happen after that time of night, let alone 11 o'clock at some points. And that's the nature of the request. Really isn't much else to it. I just would be able to have a DJ and do, like I said, a drag show or the occasional private event that would have a DJ as well.
Thank you very much. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Hearing none. Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants for item 21?
There are not.
All right, committee, what's your pleasure? Dr. Reese.
Move to grant.
Your motion to grant from Dr. Reese. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Alder Revere. Discussion. Mr. Fletcher.
So, Mr. Chair, I do actually have just one quick question for the applicant, and that is, given, just can you talk about, you talked about occasional, events. Can you specify a little bit more on how often you're looking to hold events at this location where the entertainment?
Sure. No, if I was to do this, it would really be about once a month. I don't think it would be much more than that. I don't have any interest in becoming known as a place that has a DJ. It doesn't feed my ego. It doesn't feed my business. It doesn't fit in my business model. But every once in a while, it's nice to have something that's a little different, just to provide something that's a little more cultural for the neighborhood that I'm on. And at the same time, this would also give me the opportunity when we have, like for instance, through Mad Lit, we were able to do a lot of connections with local artists. I've been approached by a lot of the local artists to have parties in the place, pop-ups, so that they would have a DJ as well, which would also, I think, would add value to the community. Again, these are all things that would happen on a very limited basis. I would not have any interest in doing this like every night, every weekend, mainly because it's too much stress for me to carry as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Alder Verbeer.
Thank you. Yes, one last thing, almost housekeeping, but not really housekeeping. I just wanted to let Captain Sanders know, because I know that he had not yet connected with Nathan, that Nathan informed me today that he had left voicemails for Captain Donahue before the transition and leadership of the Central Police District. So I just wanted to mention that to you, Captain, and I'll make sure that you and Nathan connect if you think that that's necessary, in a future date. I don't know if you want to have any questions now for the applicant, Captain, but I just wanted to clarify that because I don't want you to think that you weren't contacted about a pending entertainment license.
Absolutely. You just read my mind, and I was fixing to raise my hand up during this call. Nathan, by all means, feel free to reach out to my office and we can set up a time in which we can discuss some details, especially if we're talking about adding additional maybe people to come into your venue. I will be open to that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'd be happy to do so. Thank you. I will be in touch soon as well.
Thank you, Alder Revere and Captain Sanders. Committee, what is your pleasure?
I believe we have a motion, Chairperson, don't we? Or if not, I'll move to grant.
I'm sorry, I lost track. We have a motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Seeing none, motion carries. 21 plus entertainment license is granted for 107 State. Moving on back to item 19, summary of recent calls for service. So once again, Captain Sanders, is there anything to which you would like to draw the ALRC's attention?
There's nothing incredibly major at this time. I would just say that we're kind of vamping up and preparing for October 29th and October 30th, which is that Halloween weekend. And we're doing some of the groundwork. We had a couple of our officers already out kind of leafletting the surrounding neighborhoods. But as of right now, I'm working with Attorney Zillaby, and we look to get something out to the bars in the near future.
So, well, best of luck on Halloween. We know that is not a boring night for MPD. Committee, do you have any questions for Captain Sanders? Mr. Fletcher.
Captain, now that we're a few games kind of into the UW football season with home games, how have those been going so far down on Regent Street and around the stadium, maybe in comparison to prior years as well?
Regent Street isn't necessarily my area, but I will say that the games have been extremely crowded. Maybe a couple weeks ago, I was out kind of just scanning the environment after a night game, and the wave of people, I believe it was versus Penn State, if I remember correctly, but the wave of people that kind of flooded the downtown area in the State Street corridor as well was immense. It's almost like Delta doesn't exist and COVID never happened. So we're starting to kind of tune in a little bit to some of the staff are wearing masks, reference some of the bars, the employees of establishments, and we'll start documenting some of these things as we, like I said, get through the Halloween rush that we currently are facing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Alder Carter, then Alder Revere. Alder Carter.
Your mic's muted.
Okay, for goodness sake. So on your summary, it seems like some of the same establishments keeps repeating month after month. What can you tell me about that? And should I be contacting the captain of those districts?
So, Alder, I will say that reference, I guess, the downtown area, we have one establishment that is pretty much causing a lot of calls for service in the general area. Reference the outside districts, yes, I would recommend that you contact those captains as well. I've been in contact with Attorney Zillaby to address the situation in the State Street corridor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Alder Revere.
Thank you. Captain, now, of course, you have us all trying to guess what you're referring to. I don't think it's problematic, and Attorney Zilby can cut us off if it is, but could you share the name of the establishment, please, and a very short background of what the concern is?
A lot of these concerns were kind of addressed in our tavern safety meeting that we had a couple weeks back, in which one establishment in particular, Whiskey Jack's, has seen an increase of calls for service within that 500 block of State Street. And some of the things that we've discussed is the over-serving, maintaining and managing your line, as well as capacity and underage drinking. And these are issues that we'll continue to address with that establishment.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then new topic, but an old one that you've all heard me articulate the last few months, and that is the concern about the MPD record section backlog with background checks for operator licenses. I've anecdotally noticed more robust activity, but I know that you're still very short-staffed in records with civilian. I keep wanting to call them stenos because I've been here so long, Harrison. Anyway, PRTs, what they're called now. Could you and Mr. Verbic give us an update on where we are with backgrounds for operator license applicants, please? Have we caught up yet?
I would say that's a more direct question, Mike, that you can refer to records reference. I wouldn't necessarily have that answer at this time.
Perhaps the deputy city clerk has a better indication of where things are at in his office, then please.
Yeah, let me just look it up. So, yeah, it looks like they're doing a really good job. We're down to 34 applications that are in the under review status, which would be the ones where they're currently in background check. The oldest one dating back to, it's like mid-August. I don't know if there's something flagged in there because there's only, it looks like there's 3 from September and 4 from August. I don't know if those ones have just a larger, require a larger background check than others, or they found something that hung up with them. I can check with records and see if maybe they found that there's like court fees due or something like that they need to reach out to the applicant, or if it's just that it's requiring for digging deeper into the background check. So I can see what those ones are. Other than that, the other 27 are all October applications. So the backlog is far, far slimmer than it was when we last kind of talked about this.
Wonderful. Thank you for the good news, Jim, and please do check on that for us. And if you have the time, if you could maybe drop me an email with the status of what you found out, I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
Thanks very much.
All right. Sure. Next up, Dr. Reese.
Just regarding Whiskey Jack's, I just wanted to note for the record in the research that Urban Community Arts Network did in 2017, looking at police calls for service by music genre over an 8-year period. That was an establishment that was far and away more police calls for service than any other venue. Even in I can't remember if it was the number 1 or number 2, but it was way up there. So sounds like an ongoing problem. So I hope we can work that out. And if anyone would like a copy of that research, just let me know. I can pass it along.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. Any further discussion or questions?
I would like a copy of that, Dr. Reese.
I'll email to you.
Anyone else? Okay, on to item 20, summary of licenses issued. Mr. Verpick, is there anything to which you would like to draw our attention?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add is I was just informed after I had already done the summary of licenses granted and issued that we were informed that Madison's population grew by a little over 4,000. So we have added 4 new additional reserve licenses for our quota. So our total, and I realized when I was looking at this that I forgot to add last year's increase to it as well. So while the Summary of licenses granted and issued document says the city has 132 reserve licenses. It's actually 139 because we had 3 last year and 4 this year for a total of 7. However, we have to subtract 1 because we gave 1 to Shorewood Hills. So technically we have 138. So our overall quota number would be 463.
Thank you, Mr. Herbeck. Committee, do you have any questions for our deputy city clerk? Hearing none, that brings us to the end of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Mr. Fletcher, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Dr. Reese. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed at the same privilege. Motion carries. I adjourn this meeting of ALRC at 6:29 p.m.
What am I going to do now?
I know.